All right, guys, today we're going to learn how to drag out an electrical work order long enough that the tenant gives up so he'll never have to actually learn how to do any electrical work. Electricity is tricky because it's the one thing renters won't try to fix themselves, so they'll keep bugging the office until they feel like you're doing something. It's a universal mandate that electrical emergencies only arise after midnight on a Friday or Saturday, so your job is to stall until Tuesday when the real electrician's rates go down. But what if it really is an emergency that can't wait? Don't give in to their namsy-pamsy cries of "my air conditioning" or "my medical equipment." Everyone knows that's just their way of trying to bully you into doing your job. Oh, they'll whine and cry and threaten legal action, but don't you fall for it. You're better than that, Cletus. Now the first thing you got to do is inform them that they are your bottom priority. I don't care if it's 120 degrees out and they have no power at all. There's always a more pressing emergency. Lester, you got an A in Work Orders 101. What's the go-to cover?
Busted pipe.
An extra Bud Light for you tonight, Lester. That's right. Even if you only have 2 properties, at least one of them can have a busted pipe at any given moment. Now, even with the perfect alibi, you don't want the tenant getting any fancy ideas like calling your boss again. So at some point, you gotta go over there and take a look-see. They recognize your truck, so pulling up outside will give them some hope. Just park yourself there and idle while you get all your paperwork done. Have yourself a snack or a nap or whatever you like. I mean, you're getting overtime, am I right? Just don't overdo it, or one of them will build up the courage to come out and talk to you. That's the last thing you want. If you see them peek out the window or move to the door, that's your cue. Now, fellas, write this down. Do not, I repeat, do not bring your toolbox or any other paraphernalia on the first go-round. When you knock on that door, you gotta have nothing on hand. This is important. You make the renter show you the problem, and then you tell them you gotta go back to your truck to get your flashlight. Then pretend to get another call. This will buy you at least an hour. Next, you gotta get them to show you where the fuse box is.
What if they don't know?
Excellent question, Clyde. This'll buy you another hour while you pretend to look for it. You can stretch it out to 2 hours if you pretend to get another call, 5 hours if that call is another busted pipe. You see what I'm doing here? If you're really lucky, at some point, they might just give up and go to bed. Now, I don't want to get your hopes up because this is next-level professionalism that takes years to practice and hone, but one time I actually got them to rent a hotel room for the night. Yeah, I was in rare form that day. Keep in mind, this is all before you even so much as look at the issue. Now, after you've stalled sufficiently, you will have to take a look at it. You got your flashlight, but remember, that's it. No tools. Not yet. They know that you know where the breaker box is, so that's your first move. Flip them all on and off. Every single one of them, even if they're labeled and you can clearly see they ain't the problem. The renter doesn't know that. The more lights you can turn on and off, the more it'll look like you're trying to do something. Okay, now you start getting specific. Ask them what room the problem's in. Take your flashlight and ask if it's a particular outlet or the whole room. If they're not sure, have them unplug everything in the room. I mean everything. If they have to move furniture around, all the better. That'll give you time for another fake phone call in your truck. Remember, the busier you look, the more guilty they'll feel for bothering you. When they're done, try the breaker again. Then have them turn on the overhead light. If it don't stay on, you got lucky and can blame the fuse itself. Tell them you'll be calling a specialist in as soon as things open back up, and you'll let them know when to expect the other guy tomorrow. Wrap it up and head home. Make sure you log your time. If the overhead does stay on, it ain't the problem, and now you're stuck. Don't panic, though, because every step I'm about to give you opens an opportunity to get out of there. Have them turn the overhead off and then plug a lamp or something into one of the outlets. Yes, Joey?
Why would you have them turn off the overhead if it's working okay?
Come on, Joey, you ain't new here. Usually they won't have anything handy, and having to use a flashlight to find it will slow them down. So that'll buy you time for a smoke break.
Oh, that makes sense.
You bet your bippy it does. Once they find something to plug in, plug the thing in and turn it on. If it stays on, turn it off and plug it into the next receptacle. And by next, I don't mean the next outlet in the room. I mean the next receptacle on the same outlet.
But ain't the receptacles on an outlet all on the same circuit?
Lenny, I know that, and you know that, but the dadgum tenants don't know that. Do you want to cut your overtime in half? Pay attention, son.
Sorry, Prof, you're right.
Any other brain surgeons want to speak up? No? Okay. Now continue doing this to all the outlets, even if you find the problem. You can repeat this at least twice. Just say you got to double check. Once you've nailed down the culprit, that's when you really get to look like you're doing your job. Remember, every time you go out to the truck and back, they think you're doing something. This time you get your voltmeter and start beeping around the outlet. They don't know what the thing does. Heck, I don't know what the thing does. So if they ask, just make something up, like you found a disturbance in the flux force. Tell them it'll take some special supplies that you got to get at the hardware store, which ain't open, and the job will take a full day's work. So that buys you all the rest of the time you need until you can call the real electrician, and then he can start the whole process over again. All right, boys, today's lesson was a long one. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Who's the wee lovely stars above his father? Father, who's the bravest of the brave? Father, father.
I am your father.
Oh, Father, how can I ever face the fellows in Troop 12?
You can act like a man. What's the matter with you?
My paw.
Anybody can be a father. Take a real man to be a daddy.
It's Father's Day, dear.
I think Papa has it all figured out.
My father shooting at helpless old ladies. Oh, Daddy, do you know you're still number one?
My paw.
I can take care of a baby. I used to be a baby.
Oh, Father.
Come to Papa.
And who's your best friend to the very end? Nobody else but Paul.
All right, let the show begin.
And a happy Father's Day to all the fathers. I almost said the word, but I couldn't do it. Happy Father's Day, everybody. I hope you've had a blessed day. You were spoiled rotten, and it's been a beautiful Sunday, an exceptionally hot Sunday afternoon. If you're hearing a lot of fans going on, which I hope you're not, I mean, we'd like a lot of fans, but probably not the kind that you're hearing on the on the microphone. It's because it is 97 degrees outside here deep in the heart of Texas, and probably about 99 of those degrees are inside this hot oven that we call Counterculture Wise Studios. So we will muddle, we will do our best. Folks, I am your hostess with the mostest, but it is not my day. It is your day. It is Father's Day for every man who has raised a child, helped raise a child, or taken over for a man to help raise his child. Thank you so much for what you have done for society and for that child. You mean the world to those children. Keep doing what you're doing. Be kind, be gentle, be smart, and keep telling those bad dad jokes. Speaking of bad dad jokes, here with me in Counterculture Wise Studios is the father to our quartet of monster pets that are all under lock and key.
Mm-hmm.
Happens to be my husband, my co-host, and my sweet baboo, Mr. James Monet.
All right, well, we can't have a Dad's Day without a Dad's Day joke, so bear with me for just a moment.
There.
Oh, by the way, yeah, kudos to you for putting together that montage during the opening credits. I appreciate it. That was very sweet of you.
7 days of fatherhood. I mean, Father's Day.
And
our very, 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 very first podcast was on a Father's
so
Day.
basically, we're celebrating our,
the
our
beginning
seventh
of our
year.
7th year. Yeah.
All right.
Gosh, we've been doing this for so long. You'd think we'd be good at it by now.
Almost, we're 10 minutes in. We're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so far,
haven't been booted off
So,
YouTube yet.
What do you call a Frenchman wearing sandals?
What do I call a Frenchman wearing sandals? It's going to be bad, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
What do I call a Frenchman wearing sandals?
Philippe Flop. Come on, that was good.
Philippe Flop, yes. Hokey dokey. Well, with that being said, we have some congratulations to send out to our old stomping grounds.
Indeed, the Las Vegas Kniggets, the Golden Kniggets.
And I like the Golden Knights because they're the only homegrown team.
They are. They were an extension team, and their first year they made it to the Stanley Cup, which was amazing. And at the time, because we had just suffered through the horror of the October October 1st shootings. So yeah, it was emotional, and they did it again, folks. They beat the Panthers and took away the Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, because I'm not a ridiculously crazy sports buff and no longer live in Vegas, I totally brain farted watching the game.
It's not the same when you're watching it not there.
But the thing is, when they're charging $600 to $3,000 a ticket, and that's not an exaggeration, I'll stay in a bar.
Game?
Yeah, I will have a burger and fries and watch the game with a beer at Applebee's. I'm not that.
Yeah, ticket prices have gotten ridiculous. I mean, just ridiculous for anything.
Well, I
for
mean,
any show.
then,
It makes it so you don't want to go anymore.
But then again, half the people I know a guy, so they don't pay full price, and so we've gotten into a bunch of free shows. I don't think we've ever gotten to a free sporting event when we were there, but anyway.
I've only been to that one hockey game.
Yeah, we went to a hockey game in Seattle, but that was in Kent, actually, not even Seattle.
It wasn't even a major.
It was within walking distance, and it was reasonable. We had a fantastic time.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They threw teddy bears on the ice. That was cool.
And
I'm really proud of the Golden Knights for a couple of reasons. One is because they're a homegrown team, and the other is, I mean, what would you? It's like the Jamaican bobsled team. We're in the middle of a dang desert, and yet we've got one of the best hockey teams out there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great.
Do they ever have to play Canadian teams?
Yeah. If you're in the NHL, wait, they're not in the
and
NHL.
It's just national. So.
Yeah, well, with hockey, national's kind of Canadian, and yeah, they play Canadians, eh?
They play Canadians, eh? All right.
All right.
Well, congratulations.
Yes, indeed.
Well, we like to start out on a good note, but usually we start out by
talking about dead people.
But
this guy was very polarizing. You either considered him a hero or a traitor to his country. And my opinion has always been that if high-ranking government officials fall under the traitor to the country side, you're probably a hero. This, long before Chelsea Manning or Edward Snowden or
which are still being
or
persecuted.
Julian Assange.
Yeah.
We had Daniel Ellsberg. Daniel Ellsberg, just to give you a rundown, he is he's no longer an is, he's a was. See, that's how it works. He is a former military person. He was in the Marines. He worked at the Rand Corporation, and he was, I'm trying to find it here. Here we go. For some reason, the page disappeared. I appreciate it. So he...
Nothing but professionalism here at Counterculture Wise.
Okay, it's always next week, folks. Tune in next week. Anyway, no.
7 years.
7 years and we still go, where's the page? This is why we're not on CBS. Okay? There you go. Daniel Ellsberg, the history-making whistleblower who, by leaking the Pentagon papers...
You know what? I'm such a professional. The one I meant to hit was...
Yeah, that one.
But bats eat crickets and mosquitoes, so I think that counts. See, this is why we're not on video. It looks like that. That is why we're not on video.
Oh, heavens. Anyway, Daniel Ellsberg, who, by leaking the Pentagon papers, revealed long-time government doubts and deceit about the Vietnam War and inspired acts of retaliation by President Richard Nixon that helped lead to his resignation, hooray for that, has died. He was 92. Ellsberg, whose actions led to a landmark First Amendment ruling by the Supreme Court, had disclosed in February that he was terminally ill, pancreatic cancer, and he died Friday.
Yeah, but 92, he had a good run.
Anyway, until the early 1970s, when he disclosed that he was the source for the stunning media reports on the 47-volume, 7,000-page Defense Department study of the U.S. role in Indochina, Ellsberg was a well-placed member of the government military elite. He was a Harvard graduate and self-defined Cold Warrior who served as a private and government consultant on Vietnam throughout the 60s, risked his life on the battlefield, received the highest security clearances, and came to be trusted by officials in both Democratic and Republican administrations. He was especially valued, he would later note, for his talent for discretion. But he changed his mind. An entire generation of Vietnam-era insiders had become just as disillusioned as I with a war they saw as hopeless and interminable, he wrote in his 2002 memoir, Secrets, a memoir of Vietnam and the Pentagon Papers. By 1968, if not earlier, they all wanted, as I did, to see us out of this war.
Mm-hmm.
The Pentagon Papers had been commissioned in 1967 by then Defense Secretary Robert McNamara, a leading public advocate of the war who wanted to leave behind a comprehensive history of the U.S. and Vietnam and to help his successors avoid the kinds of mistakes he would only admit to long after. I'm going to go ahead and just cut to the chase because this could take the whole hour leading up to our interview.
Oh, yeah, folks, I forgot to announce, stick around because the second half of our show is devoted to Marine combat vet Dan Biegler, who will be talking about his book Through Fire...
Through Fields and Fire.
Yeah, I get the fire in there. The Fury and Fire at... unfortunate that we have
It's
Fury
in
and Fire.
alphabetical order, you know. Fields and Fire.
Fields and Fire.
Yeah.
Fields of Fire?
No, Fields of Fire was a big country song.
It was?
Yes.
See, no wonder I'm confused.
They played it live. Were you there?
No wonder I'm confused.
I don't think they played. I don't think they played that song when we saw them. It was a concert we saw together. Only we weren't together. Long story.
Long story.
Anyway,
we've shared it on here before.
Yeah. So instead of keeping it secret, though, out of conscience, he leaked it to the New York Times, and that is where things got really bad and really good. See. I think the Vietnam War and the fallout from that is when we no longer... I mean, we never held our presidents as infallible, but we held them in a much higher regard back then. But between Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon, who all were culpable in this and caused a deep schism within our country that I don't think has ever completely healed.
We have completely lost our government.
Yeah.
It is no longer of, by, and for the people.
No, that was just the beginning.
And now we live in a banana republic, but I don't want to talk too much about
yeah,
that.
we're gonna skip that this week because
it's
we're flogging it to death, and it's Father's Day, not Floggers Day. Come on.
Ooh.
Hey, I'm
Floggers Month though.
So. You can't drop it, Nixon fumed privately to his chief of staff, H.R. Haldeman. You can't let the Jews steal that stuff and get away with it, you understand?
Did he really say that?
Oh, he had a thing about Jews, which is funny because Henry Kissinger was his Secretary of State. But, whatever.
Yipe. All right.
I'm not a crook. You stinky Jews. Anyway. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with that.
So when Nixon is an anti-Semitic Sean Connery. Okay.
Anyway.
Keep working on it there. Lordy.
Miss Moneypenny. I'm done with that. So anyway,
hopefully Miss Moneypenny
I consider Ellsberg just like I consider Chelsea Manning, and yeah, I'm calling her Chelsea. I got mad respect for her, and Edward Snowden, Julian Assange.
None of these people should be political prisoners.
No,
it's ridiculous.
They are heroes, and
I will never forgive Trump for not pardoning Assange and getting him home.
Yeah, that should have been. I'm sorry for saying this, Melanie. A no-brainer. That really just should have been like that. That should have absolutely happened. Absolutely happened.
He apologized to me because I really hate that phrase.
Yeah.
If you have to remove your brain, it's not a good thing. But yeah, it shouldn't have taken any thought at all, and I don't know why he didn't.
I think there were pressures. Even he can feel pressure from.
Could have traded him for Brittany Griner. Keep her. Okay.
Baylor
on that good news.
On that good news now. We're done with the dead people section of our show.
No more dead people. Let's talk about live people.
Yay, live people.
Counterculture Wise is proud to present News of the Weird and Wonderful. Here are your hosts, Melanie Hope and Jim Monis.
Why, that's me.
Holy moly. Is this true? We shop at this place from time to time.
I know, but they don't have it here. This is in Europe, but I think it's brilliant, and yet we might have to have a little talk. I am a blasphemer. I like my wine frozen. Not my red wine, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to a rosé or a white wine, although I don't like Chardonnay at all, I tend to like crisp or sweet whites if I'm drinking a white.
I like my white wine sparkly. That's just me. I'm a champagne guy.
He likes his wine like he likes his women, light and sparkly.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is interesting. Rosé lovers rejoice. Aldi has just launched the world's first rosé dispensing billboard in Manchester, and it's completely free. I wonder how they keep out the chillins. The catch, it only dispenses the wine at 19.2 degrees Celsius. So that's when the weather itself gets to that, then it dispenses the wine. The ideal temperature to enjoy the tipple, according to the supermarket's research. 19.2 degrees Celsius is 66.56 degrees Fahrenheit. That is boiling wine! You're boiling the wine, you freaks! Sorry, that's just a little bit warm for me. Okay, so they say that's the exact perfect temperature, so every time the weather hits 19.2 degrees Celsius, then it dispenses free rosé. Everyone's familiar with the saying, it's wine o'clock, but we were curious to find out what it's rosé degrees, says Julie Ashford, the managing director of buying at Aldi UK. Now, see, Budweiser, this is how it's done. You make it about the product. Am I kooky?
Millions of Americans say no, you're not.
Yeah, make it about the product, dum-dums. According to the Nation of Rosé Lovers, the ideal temperature is 19.2 degrees. Aldi's decision to unveil this innovative billboard was backed by a survey of over 1,000 rosé drinkers.
Wait a minute, they found 1,000 rosé drinkers?
Hey guys, you want free wine? Yeah, I do! Well, I guess it's positive feedback. I'm sorry, this is in England. Oh, very much I would love some free rosé. May I tipple it at 1 o'clock? Okay. I'm not the actor. Setting up the world's first billboard to dispense rosé at a certain warm temperature was a challenge in Manchester, which is noted for rain. But as the centre, I like how they centre, of the region which loves rosé more than any other in the UK, fortunately everything came up rosé.
Everything's coming up rosé.
Everything's coming up rosé.
You'll be swell. You'll be great. You'll be tasting some juice of the grape.
That's it.
Here,
Hey, not bad. That's pretty good. No, that was good. Not bad. You should write or something for a living.
Yeah, I ought to.
In their research, the supermarket also found that rosé lovers enjoy an average of 63 glasses throughout the summer. I like 63 glasses throughout the night. Spending a total of $11.34, so $14.17 a bottle. Cheap bottle, not bad. With the preference being a glass of Provence at 5:18 p.m.
Ooh.
Wow, that's really specific. The topic of adding ice to rosé proved to be a divisive one. I'm on the ice side. Ice, ice, baby. Although I like to freeze the wine itself so it doesn't dilute it.
Which is why that's like mushrooms on a pizza to me. I'm not gonna drink it at that temperature. It's weird to me.
You like your water warm too. But
Yeah, I do.
I like it the colder the better.
Like my beer cold, my wine at room
beer's
temperature.
Got to be cold. Beer's got to be nice and cold. 55% of respondents deemed it acceptable to cool down their wine during hot weather. The remaining 45% vehemently declared that they would never dilute their cherished drink with ice cubes. No, I mean, I don't want to dilute it, but what I do is when I know I'm going to drink some,
Now see,
never with red.
How did they get nothing but attractive people in this photo to get wine? What's up with this?
If you stand there long enough, you're going to get pretty people. They're probably paid actors.
Probably.
Aldi's unveiling of the rosé billboard aligns with the supermarket's growing reputation as a go-to destination for rosé. You know, their wines are pretty good. They're Owl, whatever the heck they're called.
Yeah, and their wines are inexpensive and actually quite good, yes.
In 2022, Aldi experienced a 134% increase in spring-summer rosé sales compared to the previous year, with the most successful day coinciding with a scorching August heat wave. Anyways,
you know, if they had that at their location in Killeen, it would have been more bearable.
Yeah, I'd just be sticking my hand my mouth under the spigot. I'm sure somewhere, because they all look like grown-ups, so I'm sure somewhere. Yeah, so it's only a temporary. It's not like around the clock. I think they just put it out when it is that.
I think that's brilliant marketing.
It is. See, make it about the product. Totally non-controversial. I mean, the worst controversy. Worst controversy is whether to put ice in the wine. So.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm just going to say this, and I want to let the matter go. I don't want us to ramble on about it for a while, but Bud Light sales are crashing still.
Good,
and now they're stuck because if they apologize, which is what they ought to do, they're going to get the rainbow people pissed off, and if they don't do it, we're going to keep boycotting them, and just they put themselves in an impossible situation. The only people I feel badly about involved in all of this are the beverage distributors who did not ask for this.
Yeah.
And they're losing money too. I mean, yes, some of them distribute, Molson Coors stuff, which is still doing fine and actually better. I think they're taking over Anheuser as the number one beer company in America. I'm happy with that. Anyway, just want to give you an update. So, that is wonderful. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is going to be fun. The Fox News Chiron. Chiron is the
lower third.
The lower third of the screen where that has what's going on. Sometimes it also has weather and all that kind of stuff.
This guy lost his job all over the place, but he is a hero.
A Fox News Chiron appeared to refer to President Biden as a wannabe dictator during footage of his remarks from the White House on Tuesday.
Oh, that makes my little heart
The same day that Former President Donald J. Trump was charged with federal crimes in a Miami courtroom. By the way, Biden was indicted on the same day for different things. But we're not going to get into that because nobody talked about it.
Yeah, he's going to get away with it. But
the on-screen text appeared briefly at the bottom of a split-screen broadcast that showed President Biden and former President Trump speaking from respective podiums at the White House and a Trump golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested, the Chiron read. That is the most honest thing I've seen Fox News do, and I don't know.
That's why he got fired.
It did not refer to Mr. Biden by name, but the implication was clear, DUH. The alert appeared at the end of the 8 p.m. broadcast of Fox News Tonight, a primetime show that recently replaced one that had been hosted by Tucker Carlson, not toasted by Hooker Carlson. I haven't even been drinking. A popular nightside host who was dismissed by the network in April. By the way, his new show on Twitter has an unbelievable audience. I mean, just amazing numbers. The footage of Mr. Biden showed him speaking on the South Lawn of the White House on Thursday at a holiday event. The term wannabe dictator was unusually strong even for a network that generally had a friendly relationship with the Trump White House and has been heavily critical of the Biden administration. On Tuesday's edition of Fox News Tonight, host Brian Kilmeade also referred incorrectly to Mr. Trump as the President of the United States before he began speaking at his New Jersey club. Nah.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen, man.
Representatives for Fox News did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Mr. Trump, the front-runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, on Tuesday became the first former president to be charged with federal crimes. He pleaded not guilty to 37 counts related to his handling of classified documents after he left office and his refusal to return them. Later on Tuesday, after President Biden delivered remarks during a White House reception for American diplomats...
He didn't refuse to return. Such nonsense.
Yeah. He declined to answer questions from reporters in the room about Trump's courtroom appearance. A number of major television networks have declined to broadcast Mr. Trump's speeches live out of concern that doing so would give him a platform for spreading misinformation. Har har. When CNN hosted a town hall, Mr. Trump and May is roundly criticized by observers who call the decision to air the event live irresponsible. I'm the one being political tonight after saying I didn't want to be political.
Well, it is Father's Day, so I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. Since the 2020 election, vote third party. Since the 2020 election, Fox News has occasionally cut away from Mr. Trump's speeches or declined to run them. In other cases, as on Tuesday, the network has given them primetime slots. Nobody has revealed the name of the hero who told the truth in one line. Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House.
So.
Did he? Okay. Or she, or they, I don't know. So, yeah, that is, normally wouldn't be called News of the Wonderful, but, yeah, it's pretty wonderful. Okay. All right.
It's more weird than wonderful, but, yeah, okay. This sounds like our house.
Yeah, this is...
Or at least it would sound like our house. Why don't you go ahead and read the next one while I find the actual article that you put here instead of something that...
Wimbledon tennis Kaldemar final de Czech Petra Kvitova, Rus Maria Sharapova.
Okay, fine, you continue reading that while I go find the real
and
article.
Eric, what in the...
I don't know. This is what happens when you...
But I copied it.
Got to be careful.
Folks, please come to our website, counterculturewise.com.
Where we post the real links when we
post
find
the real
them.
links when we find them. What in the world was this?
I don't know.
It's Euro News, which I'd even be happy to read it if I knew what stupid language this even was.
I'm pretty sure it's Russian.
Oh, wait, no. The weather is from Istanbul, so it's Turkish.
Okay. Well, let me see what.
Anyway,
original...
somebody named Czech Kvitova won the Wimbledon.
What? You just washed your.
God save the Queen, man!
And you can't do a thing with it.
Sad. Anyway.
Sad.
Sad.
Okay, so I'm curious. Oh, I see what you did. No, I don't see what you did. Okay. So
at any rate,
I
would have found it by now.
So yeah, you cut off. I found it.
Okay.
I was just curious what happened. You cut off one letter. And that's what happens when you cut off one letter. All right. A cat.
A cat.
The cat figured out how to open the microwave to get food, and he's not happy about the child lock.
Ruh-roh.
Bentley is a 4-year-old Himalayan who
Perfect
we worked
name.
with a local rescue to rescue from the streets. Through Facebook, we confirmed he has no owner, so we stepped in. After already having 4 cats, we thought, what's one more? Bentley is the sweetest cat, but has a strong affinity for finding food, probably due to his time surviving outside. He once got pizza out of our microwave, and that is when we learned he could open it. He didn't want to have to buy a new one, since we just got that one, so we put a child lock on it. Needless to say, he wasn't happy about that, and was determined to get the microwave open. So there's a hilarious video about this cat just really, it's beautiful though, really being upset that there's a child lock on the microwave, and he's smacking that button like you wouldn't believe. He's looking all around trying to figure out how to get into it. You go, Bentley.
We're
Hashtag Team Bentley.
Team Bentley.
I am so glad.
I approve of this message.
Yeah, you stay out of the room, Max.
How did he get in here? I thought we had him locked. Folks,
Well, if we
he
can see him, then we know
swore
where
up
he is.
and
It's
down
safe,
on a
no?
stack of Bibles or Mother Goose books or whatever books he had his paw on.
No, the story
that he
doesn't
was
make
not
Max feel
going
inferior
to interrupt our
because he
show
opens the
tonight.
front
So
door, chat.
that's one black mark against you, Maxie Mao.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chat's wondering why does this make the story make Max feel inferior? No. Why would it?
No, not at all.
He can open all the other doors.
I'm sure if he was able to get up on the counter, he would be able to open the door. That's not difficult.
He is able to get up on the counter. I catch him up there all the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
I like it when we set down the snuffle mats for the dogs and Max sits in the middle of it.
I didn't. I was this year old when I found out about snuffle mats. If you have a dog that vacuums its food and then barfs it up or whatever, this is a great way because it sets up barriers between dog face and food. And
well, it's not really a barrier, but it makes them actually snuffle it out, search it out, and it's actually really good for the dog's psyche because dogs are natural foragers.
That's true.
Unfortunately, ours are always foraging gigantic bugs that they then yak up later. So,
extra cheese and garlic
pizza. And that's why we have mouse traps in all of our garbage cans because they love Kleenex and they love tearing apart stuff. So,
yeah.
So
we're taking the mouse trap approach.
When you throw away.
Yeah, I actually set it off by putting trash on the trash can. Who knew? Yeah, well. All right, now this is one brainy child. This is fantastic. A 14-year-old California boy is about to become the youngest graduate in the history of Santa Clara University. Then he's off to SpaceX, where he's been hired as a software engineer.
That is
14
awesome.
Freaking years old.
14.
He's not chasing girls or, throwing a ball around. No, I'm not there's anything with throwing a ball around or chasing girls. But, Kyron Kazi, 14, will graduate from college Saturday with a degree, which would have been yesterday, in computer science and engineering. The Bay Area native says he's had a fairly normal college experience despite his young age. There wasn't anything to compare it to say, oh, this is different, but I really enjoyed it. I made a lot of really close friends. I think after a few days, the novelty of me being there wore off, he said. Quasi's parents say he was speaking in full sentences at 2 years old. Not only was his IQ seen as profoundly gifted, so was his emotional intelligence.
See,
that's where he and I
completely diverge.
Part ways. During third grade, I'm not joking, I've got issues. During third grade, it became, okay, I could make jokes about it being an issue, but I'm not going to do that tonight because we have limited time. During third grade, it became very obvious to my teachers, my parents, and my pediatrician that mainstream education wasn't the right path for my accelerated learning ability, Quasi said. When he starts talking like that, you think, during third grade, it became very obvious. I won't do it. I already did it. He started at Las Positas Community College when he was 9 years old. And transferred to Santa Clara University when he was 11. I went from being a third grade mutineer to really feeling validated.
California let him do that because usually they hold back intelligent children. They don't want them to succeed.
Well, see, they didn't do that when I was in school in California. So, things might have changed. I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time. By the time Quasi transferred, he'd already started working with Intel Labs as the only undergraduate intern on his team.
That is so cool.
The 14-year-old says he's grateful leaders gave him the opportunities to perform beyond his age. That's great. I think there is a conventional mindset that I'm missing out on childhood, but I don't think that's true. I think, again, that mindset would have me graduating middle school now, Quasi said. Santa Clara City Council congratulated Quasi on Tuesday for his past achievements and his future ones. I would also like to compliment institutions like SpaceX and Intel, which took basically exceptional out-of-the-box steps to make sure this thing happened.
And we should see
said
more of
Councilmember
that.
Raj
If you want to see the future, these businesses who, rather than going across the ocean to recruit people, should find our talent here in school and nurture them.
Yeah. So, Quasi will be moving to Washington State with his mom as he joins SpaceX Starlink team. Wow, that's big. As a software engineer in July.
Having to move to Washington State.
I was waiting on it. He
only
says his mom
better than
has always been,
only minus the good weather.
Yeah. Do you think a guy who's this involved in his mind would be concerned about the weather?
Well, we'll find out if he's still a boy in a year or
two. Ouch. His mom has always been his biggest supporter. My journey wouldn't have been possible if not for influential people and positions of power. Again, looking beyond my age, but I would say my mom, he said. She's been my rock through this entire journey. So that's from KGO News. Although it showed up in the local CBS station here in Central Texas. Anyway, not that that matters.
All right, those are some fun stories.
Those
I'm
are.
We got to share those. Well, let's head on into. I mean, we have fun with these stories too, but
yeah, we do.
We always like to end on a high note, but we like to dip down nice and low so that high note's extra high.
All right, so here goes.
Now, see, that's why we can't have nice things. All right, this first one's a doozy. Unfortunately, this person shares my name.
Ruh-roh.
First of all, why in the living Christ, for all that's holy, why are public school teachers allowed to be on TikTok? Or better yet, why do they feel compelled to be on TikTok? You are a grown-ass woman in charge of children. Get your stupid, sorry, narcissistic butt off of TikTok, you moron. With that preface, Melanie Rose Nipper never thought she'd be at the center of a TikTok controversy. The adjunct professor in... Oh, God, kill me. The adjunct professor in the Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies Department at the University of Cincinnati.
What else?
Of course she is the former instructor of Olivia...
Krolczyk.
Sure, all yours. Kolchak?
Just say Krolczyk.
What he said. So she's the student who went viral on TikTok. Okay, she's a student. She's stupid. She's on TikTok. That I get. In which she denounced her professor, named in the video, so she did not out her professor, for giving her a failing grade on an assignment because she used the term biological women.
Dun, dun, dun!
Yes! I actually have that button. The video has been covered by New York Post, news station, and the rest of them. The incident offering a platter of America's culture war issues, transgender rights, free speech, and leftist professors. In an interview with the Inquirer at a cafe in the city's Oakley neighborhood, Nipper said she cried when she watched the video and saw the ensuing publicity. It's a lot, right? It's a lot to handle. Now she's the victim. In the TikTok, she alleged that she was given the student alleged that she was given a failing grade on a proposal for her gender and pop culture course. Well, there's your first problem, honey. You took a gender and pop culture course. You would have to hog tie me and duct tape my eyeballs open to force me to take that stupid of a course. She planned to write a paper in which she would argue that trans athletes competing in women's sports were taking opportunities away from biological women. Because they are. Nipper confirmed the sequence of events that K-Lady shared, saying the assignment was one part of a 3-part project, and her review of the idea, and what is her name? Krolczyk? I don't want to keep calling her K-Lady because that sounds terrible. Is she Russian? Krolczyk.
Just say Ms. K. You know, just
Krolczyk.
Well, why don't you just say Miss K? We'll know who you're
Miss
talking
K.
about.
Special K.
Special K. That's fine too.
Krolczyk's language was a routine element of her duties as a professor. Every final project proposal has to be approved by the instructor, she said. I went through this very similarly at the University of Washington, where I had to go through several subjects because each one was not appropriate, according to the professor, until I finally was like, fine, I'll just talk a penis bad. They're like, okay, that one's good. You can do that one. Eventually, according to Nipper, Krolczyk asked to focus on a different topic, with Nipper even offering to extend the deadline. Because every project she tried to put in was not allowed. Afterward, Nipper was informed by the Office of Gender Equity and Inclusion. Of course, they have one. If I had children, I actually turned down a job or an interview at a district because they had one of those. I'm like, yeah, pass. Hard pass. Not interested. Office of Gender Equity and Inclusion. Equity's stupid. That Krolczyk had submitted a freedom of speech claim, which is a complaint any student may submit if they believe a faculty member violated the University of Cincinnati's free speech policy. I'm surprised they have one. Asked about the investigation into Krolczyk's complaint, I'm not even going to pronounce this name, Bluzette
Marshall,
Vice President of the Equity Inclusion Nonsense at UC, responded, "We don't comment on active investigations, but thank you for your inquiry."
No, she said this.
We don't comment on active investigations, but we thank you for your inquiry.
Nipper said she agrees any classrooms should be places for debate and Although she said she agrees that classrooms should be places for debate and discussion, that ends when, quote, "You are intentionally or unintentionally participating in systematic harm of some kind," like stating scientific fact. And of course, she cited transphobia and white supremacy as examples. There's no such thing as transphobia. Nobody's afraid of people who are pretending to be something they're not. We're just afraid that they're screwing with our children and they need to BTFO. Similar incidents had occurred in the past, of course. Who has taught the course since 2021? God, she sounds... I hate using the term snowflake because it's overused, but oh my God. When a student uses an outdated terminology, Nipper said she feels it's necessary to correct those mistakes. Not a 0 for the course, a 0 for an assignment.
Everybody knows the difference between a 0 for an assignment and a 0 on the course.
Well, look
you
at her
bimbo.
smug, narcissistic face. Just
I know.
Look at her face.
I know.
She's so just...
I know.
So
I'm not going to say what
smug.
Let me put it this way. I'm not going to say what CNN people said about the
Well, no, because they always go directly to violence. That's
I'm not going to say what they said about Sandman, but I kind of got the same idea about her.
She does. She just had that looking down her nose, I am better than you, smug, self-serving, narcissistic face that's just so...
Slappable?
No, I'm not. No, it's so typical.
Yeah.
Just so typical of her designer belief system. Her elitist designer belief system. Anyway, she goes on to say other
blah, blah, blah. Same old stuff.
Anyways. Hey, good news, though. The lady who got fired for being white got money out of Starbucks, so that's nice. We didn't talk about that because we just heard about it.
Yeah, we don't have enough time to go over that one, too.
It launched us a whole series of Starbucks and merch and everything, so...
But yeah.
Oh, you're going to like this one, Jim.
I'm sure I will.
Because I think we've actually engaged in this.
I am. As unappealing as the word sounds, bed rotting has become a new trend among the young. I'm not young. What does this got to do with me? Trends abound, and this one is taking it off if TikTok accounts are anything to go by. What exactly is this? Well, for one thing, it is definitely not about not washing or changing your sheets, if that's what you're guessing. Bed rotting simply means staying in bed all day long and not caring about what is happening outside. Okay, I'm a bed rotter. Just curling up in your own little world under the sheets. Amen, peoples. Assistant Professor of Psychiatry at Washington University, Dr. Jesse Gold, posts on TikTok addressing the issue of bed rotting. I just learned this word, bed rotting, and apparently it's like you're so tired and so stressed out that you just don't leave your bed, and that's what you do to cope.
Ick.
I mean, I think you get up to take showers and go to the bathroom. I'm just saying, I don't know.
I hope you
At least
get
I
up
would
to go
hope
to the
so.
bathroom.
I think a lot of us do that.
Why are they saying it's becoming a trend among young people? Isn't that like the definition of a teenager?
Not necessarily.
Every
See,
teenager I've ever known.
I used to spend a lot of time in my room. I wasn't necessarily in bed. I was at my desk or reading or watching a show or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I just learned this word. I think a lot of us do that. We say I'm tired because stress makes us tired. Being anxious makes us tired. Not sleeping because of both makes us tired. But while we need sleep, we need to ask ourselves, is the sleep restorative or avoidant? It's always restorative to me. Always.
No,
Never not.
You wouldn't be a crank all the time if it were.
It's because I don't get enough of the restorative stuff. Are you sleeping because you don't want to be awake because of stress and anxiety or the things you have to do? Or are you sleeping because you actually need it? You don't always have to fight the urge to bed rot, but ask yourself why. Bustle magazine, I guess there is such a thing, says that the epitome of bed rotting is to lie in bed for as long as possible and fully give in to any mental or physical fatigue you might be experiencing. That's not healthy.
All we are saying is give peace a chance.
Yeah, it was a bed in.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of bed-ins, that kind of good segue to this next one.
Okay.
It's the news fans of the Fab Four thought they would never see. The Beatles will release a new song this year featuring vocals from John Lennon.
Oh, bloody hell, why don't you just let me sleep?
With a little help from artificial intelligence. Creepy. Speaking of BBC News Radio, the 80-year-old Paul McCartney confirmed that the band, whose cultural influence may have been unmatched in the 20s, may have been. Hey, Mr. Patrick Smith, who wrote this article, do you not know who the Beatles are? God. Hey, now that McCartney dude is doing a song with Kanye, he's about to light up, man. His career's made. Jeez. They're going to release the final Beatles record this year. Isn't that what they said last time? Having used cutting-edge technology to extract John Lennon's voice from an old demo recording. We just finished it up and it'll be released this year, he said. The so far unnamed song will be the band's first original material since the release of Free as a Bird and Real Love in 1995 and 90. Was it really that long ago?
Yeah, it was that long ago. I was in line at Tower Records to buy that at midnight when the first one came out.
I remember Mom listening to it and bursting into tears. Wow! I can't believe it was that long ago. Both of which were painstaking. Wow, that's over 20 years? God,
yeah.
I'm old. I hate being this old. Both of which were painstakingly constructed around crackly demos recorded at a home in New York City by John Lennon in the 1970s. I thought they did an amazing job.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. Especially with Free as a Bird. Real Love was a good song, but Free as a Bird really knocked down my butt.
It really. Ringo Starr and George Harrison collaborated with Paul McCartney and producer Jeff Lynne on both songs, with Lennon's voice reduced to a whispery echo due to the deterioration of the tape and the low quality of the recording, which was never intended to be released. They should have just gotten Julian to do it, because the kid sounds and looks just like his dad.
Yeah.
Both songs appeared on the band's career-spanning anthology compilations, which of course my mom owned, and I think I might still, and were considered to be the final original material from a band that, with an estimated 600 million album sales, is thought to be the best-selling music act of all time. But now, movie director Pete Jackson has used cutting-edge tools to restore the aging audio track and make what could be a much improved sound. I'm interested in hearing this. He pioneered audiovisual AI technology to turn faded, distorted film footage into the epic 8-hour Get Back TV series.
Which we still haven't watched.
No, we haven't. Following the making of the Let It Be album and the band's legendary final performance at the top of Apple Corps headquarters in London's West End in January of 1969.
Sweet Loretta Fat, she thought she was a cleaner, but she was a frying pan.
Yeah, I bet you there are, thought she was a woman, but she was another man. I bet you they're not even allowed to play that song anymore.
Yeah.
They go on to talk a little bit more about AI, but I thought that was interesting.
So they're going to be using, well, so they actually were able to extract his voice, make it sound clear and up to date. That's going to be bleeding amazing.
Yeah. All right, well, here we are at the top of the hour, and live from the Counterculture Wise studio, it's Fritzina Fluffy Bottom's Father's Day Extravaganza with special guests Maximilian von Riegelbieser and Chef Aaliyah.
Now it's Fritzy taking over the studio? We have got to get these animals under control. Melanie, can you turn the mics off or something? Wait a minute. Where's Larry? Why are you announcing this thing? Did they blackmail you into this somehow?
Actually, I kind of helped her put it all together.
Wait, you mean you're in on it? What the?
Well, it's only fair. Max gets every Christmas his own talk show, a feature-length movie, my birthday, Mother's Day. It's time us girls took over.
But I thought the humans were on the same team.
Oh, so now you're playing the species card? Typical Obama voter. Sit down, Monis. The kits want to celebrate their daddy. Now, without further interruptions or ado, here's your host, Fritzy.
Obama. Okay, whatever.
Thank you, Mummy. I'm so excited to be here to celebrate the bestest daddy ever in the history of kitty daddies. Remember that time you got up at 5:30 in the morning just to give me yummy food? Then we snuggled on the couch for so long that your belly fell asleep? Or that time you shared your cheese with me and then we cuddled on the bed while you took a nap? And then Mommy came and I cuddled between you while Mommy brushed me? Then Mommy had to get up to let the dogs out, so I took her spot?
You mean this morning?
Oh, yes. It's wonderful to look back on the good old day. Oh, and there's so many more to come, like tomorrow and lunchtime and dinner. And oh, dear, so many more snacks. We'll have one together right after the show, right, Daddy?
Sure, I guess.
Now we have a special news segment. Mr. U. Farley has been working so hard doing a segment that I thought I would help out this week so that he could go home early to be with his family for Father's Day. Mr. U. Farley always says that he can't believe the things he has to talk about are actually happening, so I found him some real doozies. Take it away, Mr. U. Farley!
And now CCW News presents Holy Crap! This is actually happening. Stories on the Fritz edition? Okay. June 18, 2023. I'm Chuck U. Farley. The big news this week is a really nice boy from Idaho who sold a lot of lemonade and raised $2,000 for a cat shelter to get them toys. Ooh, I'll bet the lemonade was really good. Strawberry lemonade is my favorite, although I like cherry lemonade and regular lemonade too. What a nice boy. I'll bet he got them squeaky mice, rattling balls, and sticks on a feather. Ooh, these are my most favoritist of all. He was so nice to help out all those poor kitties with no toys. I'm lucky I have a mommy and daddy who give me toys and cheese and kitty food. Fritzy, I'm not sure I can do this.
Oh, yes, you can, Mr. U. Farley. You are doing very good. I believe in you. You can do it.
That's not what I meant. Oh, all right. Anyway, speaking of happy kitties, a woman found a kitten all alone at a gas station. She took him to the vet to make him healthy and then brought him home to live with her other rescue cat, and they became the bestest friends. Look at the pictures. Aren't they cute? I'm so lucky that I have Max to play and cuddle with. Oh, God, those pictures.
Are you okay, Mr. U. Farley?
No, I'm not. Speaking of cute, oh, dear God. A kitten found on the street with only one eye and a hole in its heart. Are you freaking kidding me? Has found a forever home. Her name is Bug. Isn't that a cute name? I like it when cats are named after other cute animals like Bug, Bear, and Honey, and Platypus and Tarantula. Damn it, Fritzy, why did you have to do this?
Well, I thought it would be fun for you to not have to talk about bad Orangemen or stupid Brandons for once, so I found you better stories. You're not mad at me, are you, Mr. U. Farley? I would be so sad if you were mad at me.
No, Fritzy, I'm not mad, just emotional. Okay, one more. Speaking of pretty kitties, here is a video of kitties playing and having fun. Oh, God, that one looks just like my little Pookie. Oh, Pookie, I miss you so. You were too good for this world. CCW News. This has been holy. Wow. Good night, and God bless.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. U. Farley. I hope you have a wonderful Father's Day and that you stop crying and drinking so much all the time. Now, ladies and gentle cats, as is tradition, my big brother always has me sing on his extravaganzas, so I asked him to prepare something special for mine. Take it away, big brother!
Thank you, little sister. I found the perfect recitation for my dear father. It was in his video archives, and it is an historical documentary that I know he cherishes because he has watched it oh so many times. It is with great honor that I recite this beautiful poem. I dedicate this to my father, whom I was told throughout my kittenhood is a really good guy. When the nasty old bogeyman fills me with fears, and my little old pinafore, whatever that is all wet with tears, and my cute little pink nose is all red from crying, who is it that saves me and keeps me from dying? My paw. When my little orange cheeks are pale with fright, who is it that lifts me and holds me tight and says, there, there, little man, everything is all right? My paw. When my food dish is empty and hunger sets in, and I cry my orange soul out and raise such a din, who is it that rushes in undies so worn and tops off my dish at 4 a.m? My paw. When I ring the front doorbells to be let out in the sun and need some alone time without anyone, I know that he'll...
Back to me, big brother. That was wonderful, wasn't it? And now, with a special recipe made just for Daddy, is CCW's own resident chef, Aaliyah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aaliyah, and I'm a puppy. I really like sticks. Mom throws them, and they're crunchy. Sometimes I dig them up.
Aaliyah, is that your recipe?
Yes, sticks. It's what's for breakfast, and lunch, and snack time, and fetching. Right, Sadie? Sadie? Now where did she go?
Well, Daddy, it looks like you have to take the puppies out. I'll sing you out with a special Daddy's Day song. As a kitten, I came in an unusual way. Mommy only had $20 to pay, and I learned to fetch, and I learned to play, and I yell meow whenever you're away, and I used the litter box, and as I grew, I became the boss of you, Dad. You know I am in charge of you. I'm your cat in the hammock sitting next to you. Max is orange and my eyes are blue. When you're gonna feed me, Dad, I need some cheese, and we'll end the special now, Dad. Let's go to the kitchen now. Oh, I can't wait. Jesus, the best Daddy.
Okay, dog's out, cat in the kitchen. I guess we go to commercial now. Jeez.
Life has become so much more complex these days, and we know there are days when you want to forget about everything. We have the answer. Inspired by one of the paragons of our political world, we are proud to introduce Biden Beers. Whether you choose our creepy cream ale, our quid pro porter, our sleepy stout, or our hair sniffer hefeweizen, you will know that you are drinking beer brewed by the finest bots in the world, using only the best barley, hops, and chloroform. One taste and you will wonder why Biden beer was missing from your life. 2 tastes, and you will wonder where your pants are. When you want to forget it all just like Joe does, treat yourself to a nice cold Biden. Biden Brewery Company, Kiev, Ukraine.
Leaders, listen up. Do you feel like you can't get a dang thing done because of all the namsy-pamsy crybabies that want you to coddle their creativity? When you give orders, are you met with vacant stares only rivaled by a cocker spaniel? It's not them. It's you. You need to shape up or they'll ship you out. Read The Sniper's Guide to Leadership, and you'll become a more effective leader, communicator, and motivator. Forget SMART goals and learn SWIFT goals. Get The Sniper's Guide to Leadership in paperback, Kindle, and Nook. Today!
I was living an ideal life with an amazing family, a good job, and lots of friends. I was also a peaceful patriot who loved my country. I woke up every day to be grateful to be an American. But then I realized my life was so good it was almost fictional. I mean, my life made so much sense that it stopped making sense, you know what I mean? Then a friend told me about libtardium.
Introducing libtardium, a treatment for severe rationality and excessive common sense. I'm generally a decent guy, and most people who know me really like me. But one day I realized I lacked passion in my life. Then my wife told me about libtardium. And let me tell you, the passion has returned with a vengeance. Hasn't it, honey?
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. Patriarchal dunderhead.
Libtardium controls the neurons that promote excessive reasoning while stimulating the ones that trigger emotions. One dose of libtardium is as effective as watching 16 hours of cable news.
I'm Senator Wish-Wash. I was a die-hard conservative until I decided that principles don't win elections. 1 week's treatment of libtardium was enough to smooth my edges, become more relatable to the press and the electorate, and it made me your senator. Libtardium changed my life, and it can change yours.
Excessive exposure to libtardium can cause sweats, dizziness, foaming at the mouth, and severe loss of IQ. Patients have reported inability to control their temper, as well as excessive and loud use of the term re. Use of libtardium can trigger psychotic reactions to MAGA hats and Candace Owens. Avoid libtardium at family gatherings, ball games, churches, coffee shops, the Lincoln Memorial, Walmart, NRA meetings, car dealerships, French restaurants, tourist buses, shopping malls, social media, movie theaters, gymnasiums, airports, mosques, Christian bakeries, plant nurseries, nursery schools, and nurses' stations. Please consult your doctor if the stupid lasts for more than 24 hours. Use of libtardium is not advised on Chicago streets during polar vortexes. Ask your local Democratic Party office if libtardium is right for you.
Yeah, I get it. Your parents were jerks and you're traumatized. But that doesn't mean you should use your lousy childhood as an excuse to be a lousy adult. Stop being such a whiner and get past your past already. Buy Get Over It and Get Started, the book by Melanie Hope that will get you out of your self-imposed failure and on the road to greatness. Available in paperback, Kindle, and Nook. Are you sick of sitting out Easter dinner or getting stuck with salad? Are you tired of having bacon and eggs without the bacon? Do you wish you could sink your chops into some pork chops? At Verstucken Farms, we feel your pain.
Introducing the world's first kosher pork, blessed by me, Rabbi Yutzi. It's good, I promise. Would I steer you wrong? Whether it's Tookish or Snook, you're gonna love Pastukin Farms kosher pork. I eat it all the damn time.
Hi, everybody. This is Fritzina Fluffybottom. Did you know that we have a Subscribe Star? We do! There are lots of fabulous extra things on there that you can't get anywhere else, like outtakes, new books, and extra videos. And you can sign up for as little as $1. Our entire show is funded by you, our loyal viewers. Please make sure you sign up today so that Mommy and Daddy can get me shiny new bells for my collar, extra feathery toys, yummy crumbly cat food bowls made just for kitty cats, more cow pillows for my couch, name brand albacore tuna, my own pink just...
Our guest tonight is an author, writer, speaker, teacher, preacher, father, Marine, and all-around great guy. Plus, he's a fellow ginger, so there's that instant street cred. We have a lot to talk about today, so buckle in and please give a warm, counterculture-wise welcome to the author of Through Fields and Fire, My Dark Horse Journey, Mr. Dan Biegler. Please tell me I pronounced your name correctly.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, good. I always ask for that phonetic spelling, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, Dan. I like to start every interview off by asking our guest to tell everybody on the interwebs where they can find you and, of course, whatever thing you are hawking, selling, doing, current project, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find my book at outskirtspress.com/Through Fields and Fire. You can find me on Facebook at Through Fields and Fire, My Dark Horse Journey by Dan Biegler. And you can email me at ddbiegler@att.net.
Wow, open up the email there. That's brave. Okay, all of those links will be available on counterculturewise.com on Dan's page when we upload our interview, as well as all the places it will go, like YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, all those places. And, of course, on our podcast at Spreaker, where you will be hearing this next week. In fact, we have decided, I'm going to go ahead and say this right here in the middle of the conversation, that you would be the perfect interview to air on Father's Day. So you're going to be part of our Father's Day extravaganza. So, yeah, I thought that would be a great time to air you.
Great.
Okay. Well, let's just start right out with your book. I've read it, got it in my hot little hands as we speak. I had Jim read it, and we really enjoyed it. You are a great author. You paint these beautiful word pictures that really, well, I know for Jim, he was having PTSD flashbacks because you're both Marines.
That's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
It is actually.
And for me, it was, I was experiencing that with you. The first half of the book is I felt like I was almost a Marine there. So that was really, really good writing.
Great.
And a lot of people talk about writing, their memoirs or writing a book, and most people just don't do it. So I would love to get a little bit of insight into what got you started down this path and what motivated you and helped you actually finish such a mammoth task.
Wow. Around 2009, I think, a friend of mine from college was teaching at a local high school in Chicago suburbs, and he invited me to come and speak to the junior class to share my war stories. And so I had done that for about 2 years when I got to the point where I thought, you know what, I just want to start writing my pivotal life moments on paper. And I just want to start putting these things down, because, they meant something to me, and maybe somehow they'll mean something to somebody else. So I wrote a short story, about a 2-page short story, that talked about the night before the ground war in Kuwait went down, and just what I was feeling, what was going through my head, what the air felt like as everybody was just walking around ready to breach the minefields and charge into Kuwait. And so I scratched that out. I cleaned it up as good as I knew how, because I'm not an editor. And I shared it with a few people, and I took the bold or naive step of putting that story on social media, and people liked it. And so I wrote another one. People liked it. And then some of my friends started asking me when the book was coming out. And, something
Inevitable.
that big. I always knew I wanted to write something. I mean, I've always loved writing, but, my story was not the first thing I thought about writing. But they always said, start writing what you know. And I know that. And so I just started putting together a whole bunch of short stories, and had a friend who was a retired editor look at it, and she gave me a lot of tips and pointers. And
Excellent.
I realized that I had a bunch of short stories, about Dan and his life, but I didn't have a central subject holding it all together. And so discovering what the subject really was, what is this story about, that took me some time. And the more I got into the depths of who I was and the journey God took me on, my struggles especially, it started getting intimidating. And I shelved the book several times. The whole thing took me about eight years to complete.
Yeah.
And, I wondered, okay, how is the veteran community going to react to a guy being this honest about his struggles? How are people going to react to a guy who wasn't a Navy SEAL, who wasn't a special ops guy, just talking about how he basically survived the military experience? And, that was intimidating. So when I actually hired an editor who I was paying now to edit the book, she gave me a lot of fantastic feedback. And as a matter of fact, she's from Texas too, from the Dallas area.
Nice.
And she, as an editor, just as an American, and I think as a mom who had sons that were in the phase of life I was writing about, it really grabbed her, and she was very, very affirming. Then I had another buddy who was an editor, did the final proofread, and he was a veteran as well. He was a Navy corpsman who was attached to Marines and served in Mogadishu. And so getting his insights and his final touches and his hearty thumbs up, I went for it and published it, and here we are.
Oh, sounds like a tempest in a teacup. You got all the exact right people at the exact right time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't have the gift that you had to keep it universal, because I mean, yeah, you and I we're in the Marine Corps, we went to boot camp, but the emotions and the thoughts that you were going through, they're actually a lot more universal than we all tend to think they are.
Right.
When we put ourselves out like that.
Well, I like that you weren't. I mean, because you get the books about the SEAL and the high ranking this and the super ops guy, and you really don't get the story of the, I don't want to say average, but
average, that's okay.
The more common experience, and I think that is going to speak and does speak a lot to pretty much every mook like Jim that didn't rise up high in the ranks or become a super secret special.
And it was also not something where I felt there was a lot of the memoirs of, I'll use Schwarzkopf as an example just because that's the first one that came to my head, but there's a lot of aggrandizement, there's a lot of novelization, makes it a little bit of hype, I guess is the word I'm trying to say.
Right.
And you kept it real.
Very honest. Very honest.
And so I totally got it, and it was quite a read. I mean, we'll talk more about our common experiences in a while, but that was it was a very well written book. It kept me reading.
I want to go ahead. I know that you sent this to me because it's important to you, but I want to go ahead and read the dedication that's actually in the book, because I said it really does. I don't usually read the dedications because it's usually, to my cat who sat on my lap while I wrote this. Or so. I actually dedicated one of my books to my dog. Of course, the book was about her, but
what matters to you matters.
But this really, really sums up the book. To Debbie and Kevin, thank you for your love, for your patience, and for listening first. Now, were you like me when you were writing your book that everybody in your family had to listen to you read parts of it at some point? They were your beta testing group.
Well, every night after dinner, after I drafted a chapter, I would read it to Debbie. Nice. And every single chapter, every word. And, even the first couple of drafts. So she's heard this about 4 or 5 times, and every single time I tried to make it cleaner and more focused. Kevin, I tried to get him interested, but as I was reading, he kept standing up and inching his way out of the room.
So Kevin
like
is
a
his
son.
teenage son.
Yeah.
Just graduated from high school. Congratulations! And
Yes.
I met you through Kevin.
Yep. Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. Let me continue. To the veterans, we are not all Hollywood-style heroes, yet the front lines were filled with holes in the shapes of our bodies, and we stepped up and filled them. Oh.
That's
We took on the
great.
risks and we paid the cost. To my friends who encouraged me to write, you may not remember all the things you said to inspire me, but I do. Thank you. That is a hell of a dedication.
It is.
That is a hell of a dedication.
Well,
So I wanted to read that.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to read that because I have interviewed authors before, but I've never had a dedication just boom right there.
Wow. I really mean this. I'm not just saying this. I prayed every single time I sat down and just asked God to help me be to the point, honest and real, and to say it in a way that mattered. I wasn't trying to, like you said, hit people. I wasn't trying to be strategic. I was trying to say how I felt in a way that read well.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about you were talking about how the book seemed to appeal more universally, and my buddy Shane, my Navy Corpsman editor, called it an everyman story.
Yeah.
And that's what it turned into. And so when I made those dedications, that dedication to the veterans was really the heart of what was driving me as I was going through it. Just be honest, tell the truth, don't say any more that needs to be said, and let it be what it is.
That the fact that you had that as just an innate understanding, because that's something that I do writers coaching, and of course I teach English, and trying to get people to understand whether you're writing a story, a novel, your memoir, even an essay, you have to create what I call your tombstone statement. A lot of times in a paper it's your thesis, but with you in your book, and I call it that because it should be 10 words or fewer to fit on a tombstone, and it's your touchstone. That's what you hold your hand to while you're telling the story. You should always come back to that, and you just had that built in. And that's a rare talent, because it's hard getting people to turn their eyes back to, okay, what was your original statement? What was your original purpose? And I felt like the book was so cohesive in that. It just flowed from that, and you never took your eyes off of that. So very, very well done. I don't want to blow too much smoke up your tutu. I know I sound like a fangirl.
She is.
Well, with your background and your skills, I take that all to heart. So thank you.
Ah, that's very sweet. Tell me about this poem. You included this as well. Usually I have the authors read their own work, but I don't want to put you on the spot and freak you out. But if you're willing to, read the poem, because it sounds the best in the author's words, and then tell us a little bit about this poem and why you included it in this book.
Okay. This is called Goliath. Goliath, you are tall and loud, an arrogant thing. Your laughter drowns my heart. Your shoulders block my sun. And who are you to mock? Who gave my path to your feet? You hold a sword and a shield, but I have a sling and a stone, and I'm fool enough to use them. And when you fall, I will see the sun.
That's
short, sweet,
great.
And to the point. I love it.
That's really good.
When did this poem arise?
This poem arose actually before the book did. I was in my den one time trying to avoid studying my master's work, and I was trying to, my brain was going into data lock, and sometimes I'll read another memoir, or I'll write a little bit of poetry, or I'll watch videos to unlock my brain, and I was feeling that message. That's, I think, a lot of where my writing starts. I have to feel it before I write it. So I wrote that. It was just how I was feeling in the moment. And, it was kind of how I was feeling my whole life, but I was finally able to put that into words. And, I condensed it. I edited it several times into that final form. I had a book, a handwritten notebook that had a lot of, poetry bits in it. And so when it was time to start thinking about the front matter of the book, is that the right term? The front portion of the book before?
I like front matter. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. When, the dedication, the author's note to the reader. And I thought,
and anything you edit out would be called the antimatter.
yeah.
I do this. I listen to this all day long.
Yeah,
these witticisms, she just slips in. I don't know how she does it.
And when you eat spaghetti while you're writing, it's antipasta.
Don't overdo it.
Now, I lost my train of thought.
When you were writing this book,
Yeah.
and you had bits of poetry in a
Right.
notebook, which I highly recommend to any writer, always have your, what I call your tickler file, your babies that you start or things that you're not sure,
Right.
things that you yanked, never throw them away.
Never.
Right?
Never.
So you went to your notebook and you've edited and re-edited and reworded it, and we were asking why you chose to include this particular poem in the book.
Yeah, and I just felt that poem was a fitting part of the introduction. And it just happened, and I thought, this is going in. This is where it belongs, and that's what happened.
Perfect. I love it. I love it because it almost sounds as if it is a psalm, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It reads
Yes.
as if it is a psalm.
Yes.
And I thought done very well. Do you have other poems?
Yeah, I do.
Are you gonna put together a book of poems?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe my next work doesn't have to be as big as this one is. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to take 8 years. It can just be, it can just be stuff I've already got. And yeah, I've got that notebook hidden somewhere. I'm going to go dig it out.
Right. Well, I encourage you to
Excellent.
do that, and
Yeah.
we'll have you back on the show to talk about
Thank
it
you.
when you
Okay.
debut it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Get the word
All
out
right.
there. All right. Well, Jim, I'm sure you're just bursting at the seams with some questions. I mean, he power read this book, and he enjoyed it. He literally walked around with the book for a week.
Yeah.
Like everywhere he went.
Blasted through it.
Yeah.
I mean that in a good way. It was like I said, it was easy to read.
It's easy to read. Very easy to
It
read.
was very,
good,
very
good.
readable. I found myself back in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
Big poofy afro, skinny as a rail. Somehow had convinced myself that, I would actually be able to prove myself to my stepfather. So
Okay.
there I am, standing in line, and I read through everything you went through in boot camp. Now, inevitably, the Marine Corps has evolved. It happens. It's not the same organization as it once did. I'm not going to go into detail.
Sure.
But
I know what you're talking about, though, but you don't have to.
Sure. No, I'm not going there, but I am saying that I was out like a year before you were in, so there had been no essential change. So when you went through all the things you went through boot camp, everybody coming from everywhere in the dark, because I arrived at night too.
Do they do that by design?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. And so I'd always had a lot of hair. So getting my head shaven, the first time I saw myself in the mirror, despite all the stress and insanity going on around me, I laughed my butt off.
Mm-hmm.
I look like I do now. It's no big deal. But at the time, it was just the funniest thing. And just everything you went through, all this irrationality flying all over the place.
Right.
I mean, eventually you find out it's not irrational. There's a reason for everything they do, and that's why it's so regimented.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I just felt myself going back there, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, how are you able to resurrect that, if you will, and make it so effective? Because I don't know that, despite, I mean, I do a lot of writing, but I don't know if I could do that. I just want to know what methods did you use?
Yeah. Well, I went back into what do they call it? The stream of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentally put myself back where we were. and, tried to shut out all the noise around me, literally put my brain back in that moment. So in doing that, I walked through it step by step as best as I could remember, because I had already been out for, well over 10 years by the time I started writing. But, they say that the traumatic feelings never really leave your brain. And so I focused on the anxiety and the stress and the trauma, and it just all started coming back.
Right.
And, you said when you got stressed, you laughed. When I got stressed, I got quiet and rigid. And so
that was more of an exception than the rule. I've found myself, and real quickly, Melanie, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to say that right up front. I was on edge for the rest of the 4 years. The slightest thing would set me off. I'd go insane. Now, I know, Melanie.
What do you mean? I'm not going to believe that. That's just you.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is,
he gets neither rigid nor quiet. Just for
back then, I was constant. There was no break. I didn't sit around joke or anything like that. It was like, and like yourself, Dan, I had kind of a problem with authority figures. And you seem like a gentle soul like me. It doesn't I was never, I didn't look at posters when I was a kid or watch the Few of the Proud commercials and go, yeah, I'm one of them.
Right.
We both knew lots of people like that. But, so, it's where was I going with this?
You're the Marine.
Well, we were talking about how we put ourselves back and draw those memories out and put them on paper.
Right. Okay. So I know I can do that sometimes when I write. It's I can remember, or when I'm acting, I can be enraged on stage just by going back to something that happened to me that was traumatizing, or what have you.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. I never thought of talking about I hardly ever talk about boot camp. I don't think I've said more than one paragraph about boot camp to my wife.
No. When we first got together, he didn't even admit to me that he had been in the service. It was something it wasn't part of his life. I mean, he didn't even know about military discounts.
I essentially repudiated the whole thing, which I regret now.
Yeah.
But at the time, that's where I was in life. So it's
he completely separated himself from that. So when I learned, he just said something offhand. I'm like, wait, what? You were a Marine? Wait, okay, hold the phone.
The door's ajar and so am I.
The guy. Yes. Yeah, it was a shocker. So I haven't, he didn't tell me those stories for a reason. So I haven't really asked him to.
Yeah.
But reading your book, okay, the experience when you first got in and you were a little chub, and they basically starved you while they were also making you go through all of the exercises.
Yes.
Tell me a little more about that, and has that affected you outside of the Marines?
Yeah, wow. Well, you're going to find out in the story, to everyone who checks it out, that I grew up a heavy kid, and
you're better now.
well, thank you. Growing up, I don't know what it's like for kids in school now, but growing up, people bullied you relentlessly, daily, in the open, and
being a chubby ginger is the worst combination ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would plan my recesses around avoiding bullies.
Oh my.
And this was my daily experience. It happened when I started becoming aware that I was different, if you know what I mean. I was probably in first or second grade. And up until my freshman year of high school, dodging bullies and just mean people and jerks was my almost daily experience.
Was there any part of your Marine experience that was like, I'm going to show these guys?
A lot of it. A lot of it.
Oh yeah.
When I was when I was recruited, I was looking at the posters, I was looking at the image, and I was looking at the opportunity to at least have the next 4 years of my life spelled out, if not a career. And so, I was drawn to the image. But what I didn't do well was really, really research the culture and research what it was really going to be like, and learn the game, as I called it in the book. And all of those things they did had reasons, but I wasn't of the frame of mind at that point to recognize it.
Now, I didn't know you could research that. I thought they kept that to
It wasn't
themselves.
as well. It's go ahead.
No, you're the interviewee. I just said it's not hidden.
It's not
Right.
hidden.
It's
but
not hidden.
Okay.
It's easier now with the internet because
yeah.
I mean you get live videos of boot camp. We didn't have those back then. We had the polished VHS cassettes that the recruiter handed you.
Right.
And that's what I had to go on. Now, I had relatives in the Marine Corps, but I didn't ask them the right questions. And I just needed a little bit better understanding of how the game was played, why it was played, and what it was all about. And so, but yeah, I did go in to show the world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I went in. I went in as a proud American boy, and all that. But I also went in to show people, and from the moment we were hollered at on the bus at the San Diego airport until the day I got out, I said I should have done my homework better. I would have still done it, but some men and women, they go in with the different set of expectations, a different mindset. Some of us don't, and some of us have. We all carry our baggage in, and that's what the boot camp experience is designed to sift out, to get you all to drop who you think you are and get on the same page with us.
Right.
Do you think that going in with a different attitude would have made your experience somehow better? I mean, you still would have had to go through, the starvation and all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I am who I am. We are who we are. We process the world as we do. And nothing. You can read the books and listen to the people who have been there, but until you're in it and you're trying to make it on your own, you don't really know. So, I have to say, if my mind was in the game a little bit more in advance, I probably would have done better. But the same things would have rubbed me, would have challenged me, would have bothered me. But. And I tried to be fair throughout the whole thing, throughout telling the whole story of saying, look, this isn't everybody, this is me. This isn't every Marine's experience, this is my experience. And in the portion of the book after I graduated boot camp, when my parents and I were leaving the base after graduation, that's when I came to grips with what this was all about. So, my stream of consciousness through the story was about how I processed it and the steps that I processed it. So, being fair, I just want to say that was my challenge. It's not everybody's challenge.
Yeah. I think even those of us who didn't serve feel a lot of those translate into outside. And that's my next question. When I found out about Jim's stint, I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. He's going to be a fantastic husband. He knows how to listen. He knows how to take direction. He knows how to make a bed. Boy, was I wrong. What has flowed over into your life, and what did you leave there?
What has flowed over into my life? I'm still learning what's flowed over into my life, but I think the things that were maybe the most obvious was resilience, was the ability to stay calm and focus on the task when everything is getting stressful. Sometimes the ability to just not lose your lunch when everybody else is losing their lunch. And it gave me a confidence, more of a confidence in dealing with people. I think it improved my organizational skills. So in those ways, I believe that I still hold on to those things.
Okay. And what'd you leave behind?
What did I leave behind? How do you mean?
Well, was there anything that you learned, or, I mean, you saw active combat, and that's, I guess, gratefully something that Jim didn't have to go through. Was there anything that you just had to leave behind that you couldn't bring into your life now, or did it all come with you?
I simply had to leave behind. I had to leave behind a lot of the, just the interpersonal challenges I faced with people.
Mm-hmm.
Peers, men and women of rank, people in authority, walking their own journeys and pushing your buttons every which way. And some of them tried to, some of them didn't. It was just we were all a bunch of people from all over the country, and even outside the country who wanted to join. We were all just people trying to live our lives and we all joined for our own reasons. And when you know how it is when you shove 50, 60 guys all in one room, and they're just trying to survive together, it can, it brings out the best in us and it brings out the worst in us. And I just had to leave a lot of those sour moments behind.
Yeah.
Take the good things out, of course.
Right.
But just the realities of life. A lot of things I was proud to write about. A lot of things I will never write about. You just don't have to.
Right.
And people are people.
Yeah, that is interesting. A lot of times when you're reading, you're like, okay, what are they not saying? What are they leaving out? I'm always curious about that. All right, we always want to end on a happy note. We still have quite a ways to go, so let's dogleg into not so happy notes.
Okay.
How do you feel about the new woke Marines and the ads that we're seeing these days? Because I know Jim's been quite vociferous about it, so I'd like to get another Marine's take on it.
Yeah, wow. That's a good question, because I haven't seen a lot of the advertisements yet that you're talking about.
Oh, you're lucky.
I've seen some, the ones that definitely look more Hollywood crafted and look like they were produced on Xbox.
Or the Disney cartoon ones. I mean, what in heaven's name? My two moms, and oh my goodness, what does that have to do with the military?
Yeah.
And then you
I'm
compare
gonna have
them
to
to
look
like
a
the
little more at the
Russian
one.
or the Chinese recruiting films, where they're like men and they're muscle, and all that stuff. And
yes.
And now it's like G.I. Joe.
But I mean, is this just adapting to the new times, or I'm asking the universe, if you will.
Recruitment is at an all-time low across all branches,
right?
And they're blaming everything except themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, are we embarrassed? Are we embarrassed for our country at this point? I mean, do we really need stretchy flight suits for pregnant women? And why are we putting pregnant women on the front lines? I mean, isn't that like a fall of society move?
Well, standing on the outside of it now. Let me put it this way: when your husband and I were in the commercials for the Marine Corps, they were, as we said, locked and cocked.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you saw the Marines, you saw the color guard, you saw the 8th and I from Washington Marines, you saw you saw the rifle twirlers and the color bearers, and the dress blues,
the best representatives of what it could be,
right. And so what they were trying to do, and what I believe they're still trying to do, is appeal to the things in life that they believe the recruit wants. And so for better or for worse, I think that right now they're appealing to what they think recruits want. Unfortunately, a lot of Americans are not inspired by the things that inspired us 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
And
it is a different world.
And
I don't think it is that different, though.
Yeah.
If it were, recruitment would be up.
No, that's true.
Considering who they're pandering to.
And I'm not endorsing it in saying, I'm just trying to understand, okay, what's happening here. And I will always say, when push comes to shove, that stretchy flight suit is not what's going to accomplish the mission. You've got to have grit. You've got to have the ability to make it happen one way or the other. I don't know if they still say this, but when we were in, we said Marines have been accomplishing so much with so little for so long that we can do anything with nothing forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that is a pure
I've heard
grit
that.
statement. So, I mean, that we need to appeal we need to appeal to the American spirit, the American soul, and we need to appeal to the people that can make it on grit.
Right.
And so at the same time, you've got the PR people who are, saying, oh, well, we have to appeal to all of these other things too in order to make people want it. And, that brings, time will tell the consequences that brings.
Yeah.
Have you seen the drag queen recruitment ad for the Navy?
No, and I'm afraid to watch it. I don't.
I can bring it up for you if you want to see it.
Okay. Yeah.
They have a literal drag queen, and of course they're using TikTok.
Of course.
Let's sell our government to China and then use
Right.
that to recruit. But yeah, he's a literal in his fatigues, the whole bit, wearing lipstick and makeup, and then it does the TikTok wipe, and then he's in full drag ensemble.
It does.
Yes.
It's
he's
like
their spokesman.
it's
He's their
actually pushing
spokesman.
the stereotype of hello sailor.
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly.
Why? Why would you do
Yeah.
that?
Is it just me, or does that make our military look weaker and open us up for attacks? I mean, it seems to me that would force that on us and actually put our men and women in jeopardy.
Right.
Because now they think we're pushovers, and we used to be feared across the globe, and now they're like, oh, look at the stupid Americans who come in with their high heels and their lipstick, and that's my next question is, I remember my grandma, I played the flute, and she really wanted me to go into the Air Force and be in the band and all that, and I had no interest at all. But I went through at least the preambles to shut her up, knowing full well that they wouldn't accept me. And one of the reasons I knew they wouldn't accept me is because you have to pass a psych evaluation. Now, I know you guys are Marines, so I'm pretty sure you guys don't have to pass any sort of psych evaluation, right?
It helps if you don't.
I want to kill.
You mean back when we enlisted or right now?
Well, back then, I mean, now, you would see, okay, I know this is controversial, I don't care. It would seem to me that if you have a mental disability,
right,
that you're probably not the best candidate. That if you have, you're actually clinically insane, that you believe you are a mermaid or a dragon, or you're a man who believes he's a woman, that would automatically exclude you. But instead, we've gone the other way. Not only will we let you come in, but we're going to make the taxpayers pay for you to mutilate yourself and become that thing you think you are.
And we will also, therefore, redefine what mental illness is.
Yeah.
Right.
And give you a lot wider margins, and call what used to be known as abnormal normal.
And they think this is helping our military.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think anytime you affirm things that God did not create, that patterns, ways of thinking, frames of mind that God did not create, then you're asking for trouble. Now, time will tell. I don't think we see a full picture yet of where this is all going. But you asked me what do I think? I think that when I watch this advertisement that you're talking about, and when I research this a little bit more, just your basic human sensibilities don't lie to you. Like this is wow. First you say this is different, then you say, this is not right.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that wouldn't have flown when I was in. And so I believe that this is taking us down the wrong road, and the things that we're doing just to fill slots is going to hurt us, and time will tell one day just how bad that's going to be.
I want to, you mentioned God, and it's such an important strain in the book of you moving from basically agnostic to Catholic to where you are now. Why don't we talk about that for a bit?
I actually had a specific question I wanted to ask about that.
Sure.
Watching, you are a pastor, and you do that. Is that part of your master's, or are you doing something different there?
Yeah, my master's is in biblical studies.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I have a
man,
bachelor's.
we should have an entire different interview just talking about that, because boy, would I love to pick your brain.
Yeah.
So my question that'll just kick this off: do you think that the Marines led you to God, or the other way around?
I think it was them put together. I think God used the journey to bring me to him. I came in with the beliefs that I had, and just the day-to-day I experienced that I was in started gradually making me more restless for him, even when I didn't recognize it. And then at a certain point, when I was just trying to answer questions that filled my spirit, God showed up and spoke to me very clearly and started leading me down the right path. I was a picture of that saying that goes, nobody starts looking for God in the right direction, but he always meets them when they're walking.
Right.
And so, I mentioned in the book that I did a lot of jogging on base. I did a lot of jogging down forest trails alone. And God showed up while I was jogging. He literally met me at an intersection and spoke very clearly in my thoughts. So, I even then, when I was trying to answer those questions the best way I could, I wasn't getting it all right on the first try, but he gradually sent people into my life to explain things to me more clearly. He started working on my conscience more and more, and I finally got to the point where I was like, yeah, this is the Bible, this is right. What I believe was a little bit of the Bible, a little bit of my own thinking, and a lot of it's wrong. So my whole approach to to being born again was that simple. It's like, well, if the Bible says this, then I can't do what I was doing before. And when I just trusted it, I made a very cerebral decision to trust what I had just read. Then things started changing.
That's something I've always struggled with, because we, even people who listen to the show, we have some that are avid atheists, and would be more than happy to. I would love to get a couple of you on to just talk to each other from far away with no weapons involved. But I've always been a skeptic, and I've always, I'll hear a story, whether it's in the news or is from the Bible, and I always do that. Really? And I always have to think about it and process it, and I want to do more research, and I would love to do what you're doing, go really, really deep. I would love to get a master's in something like that, just to learn. And do you find yourself reading stories? Like, I always hated the story about Jesus shouting at the fig tree, and I had to do a deep dive to find out what that was about. And do you find yourself going, oh, I totally had this wrong.
Yeah.
And now that I understand it, I can't not see it that way. And yet everybody else sees it that way, and they think there's something wrong with me because I believe it.
Right.
How much of the Bible is literal? And, the first thing they always want to point out is, well, you're complete kooks if you believe the earth was created in so many days.
Right.
And you think dinosaur bones were planted. It's like, I don't believe dinosaur bones were planted. And they always come up with these crazy flat earther nonsense things that we don't believe, and they think that that's the gotcha.
Right.
And Jesus was some sort of charlatan that read the Old Testament and knew all the things that was supposed to happen, so he put those wheels in gear and brought it on himself. I mean, I've heard it all. How do you overcome that? I mean, I know there's an entire field of apologetics, but it feels like every time I'm like, well, no, I understand this. And I mean, the hardest one that I've ever had to really not answer, because I just don't want to step in it, is if prayer works, if God is real, then why can't amputees get their limbs back? Or why do children get sick and die?
Yeah.
And that is where my faith struggles.
Right.
How do you
Right.
hold on to that when you're being fired at from all sides, and
Right.
you have stresses in your life, and you still believe that we have a benevolent God?
Mhm.
Is he asleep? Is he ignoring us? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Not to
Wow.
put you on the spot, Dan, but
I mean, wow, I wasn't
we
expecting
got
this.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, and too, I know you're answering that question from with a seeking heart.
Yeah.
This is not a gotcha question. We're not in combat right now. we're
No.
both
And
seeking.
like I said, I've heard answers to this question. Some are reassuring, some aren't, but I'm not as deep into it as you are. So I'm actually seeking your insight as somebody who has gone as far as you have. Not everybody pursues a master's in this, and not everybody can.
Right.
So I'd really be curious what you've learned and what perspectives have changed, and how you would answer a mother who's lost their child. How do you answer that?
Yeah.
Without platitudes, without,
And I think
I was going to say, a lot of times the pastor will make it worse, Yes. Because I love our pastor at our Old West Cowboy Church. It's really down to earth. And he's actually said, if one more person says, heaven needed another angel, he wants to pop them in the nose.
Right.
That's not how you handle grief. And yet that's kind of, the soft-hearted Christian thing. Well, sometimes love isn't nice. Sometimes love isn't soft and true. And that's the other thing we get thrown at us is, oh, you have to be tolerant to this and that. It's like, no.
Right.
No,
Bible
Jesus
teaches
was
nothing
not
about
tolerant.
tolerance.
Right.
They're like, oh, Jesus was a socialist. No, he wasn't.
Right.
And
I have to love you and tell you the truth. I don't have to I don't have to tolerate as the world now defines tolerate.
And well, it's gone from tolerate to celebrate, and it's like, okay, now we've really moved into some deep
also
doo-doo.
forcing us to celebrate. It's kind of
and
crazy.
you must celebrate it too.
But
And
anyway,
it's like, but you're not going to tolerate me. You're not going to tolerate me.
So,
but no, getting back to the original question, how do you overcome? And are you taught that in what you're studying right now? I would love a deeper understanding of why. I mean, I get the whole free choice thing, but if we do have faith of a mustard seed, if we do reach out and we do believe, why aren't we healed? Why are we not seeing miracles anymore?
Yes. And I'll try to step back a little bit more to the beginning of your question and say that as I'm getting older and the more I'm studying, I start to realize how much I don't know. And I start to realize, what? A lot of the things that I was so sure about before, I'm just not so sure about anymore. Now, I am sure about who God is, who Jesus is, who the Holy Spirit is, what the Bible is, and how a person is born again. I'm sure about those things. So there are things you have to be sure about. Then there's also some things where you've got to be honest and admit you don't know. And God knows everything. He's known everything forever, and he knew everything before we ever existed. So I always know that he will show me one way or the other as long as I'm searching. So, to begin to answer your question, I'm trying to be more comfortable with the fact that there's a lot of things that I just don't know. And so as I'm reading, though, I find that really transforms the way that I see things when I read the Bible. All of a sudden, not just the words, but the heart of what Jesus was saying starts coming out more clear, because I've tried to render myself more teachable. And so starting off with, there's just some things I don't know. Now, to taking the Bible literally, the short answer for me is yes, I take the Bible literally. I do believe the Bible is literal history. At the same time, there's a lot of things I'm still figuring out. So, to your question about how do we struggle with, or how do we grapple with the human condition, and dealing with pain, dealing with loss, and sometimes dealing with unanswered prayers. Ironically, I was just reading with my son last night. We have readings after dinner together as a family, and this conversation went on for the better part of an hour, and that seldom happens.
Yeah.
And somehow Job ended up in the conversation, and I said, isn't it interesting? And then the lights came on for me in a way that they have never come on before. And out loud, I said, thank you for that, Lord. I have never thought of that.
And your family went, okay, Dad's off his meds.
No, they know me. They know me. They do it too. I thought about Job. Actually, we were talking about the essence of what love really is, and what versus what the world has turned the word love into.
Yes.
And then, the conversation drifted, and we were talking about grappling with pain. If God loves us, then how come this and that? Mm-hmm. And so Job came into the conversation, and it just came to my mind in one of those God moments. I thought, isn't it interesting that we as humans always ask the question, why? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And we get stuck there, and we won't budge until those why questions are answered. If anybody could ask why, Job did. Job could. His friends, his wife. His wife gave him the worst advice ever. Curse God and die. I can't take this anymore. I don't know if Job got all of his questions answered. But if we look at his journey and how God restored him, we can gain a lot of wisdom through that. Mm-hmm. And so I was really taken with that and thinking to myself, you know what, I'm going to try harder not to get so stuck on why, and look at how people like Job walk their journey. I very seldom hear Job brought up in journeys about why did you do this, God, and why did you do that. And so it's really hard for me. It's hard for anybody to say, God, why didn't you heal my friend? Why didn't you, bring the baby out of their coma? Why didn't you, like you said, grow my limb back? There's a lot of things we're not going to get answers to in specific, but it's the journey of asking and seeking and bonding with God, and he'll answer the questions that are really important, because this life is very temporal. Eternity is forever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We told my wife's mother, who was a double amputee, who, questioned God every single day. I find she didn't like my answer, but it was the best I could do. I said, I can't answer your questions the way that you want them answered. And I said that with as much compassion as I could. And I had to say, to be honest, I don't know. But I do know this: God is here. He loves you. He's meeting your soul needs. And one day, very soon, we are all going to be in heaven with everything intact. So that's how, your question was, how do I grapple with it? That's how I grapple with it. And I will say this: God has miraculously healed me, Dan Biegler, in real time. Other times I've had to wait. Other things I'm still praying for. I do believe that Jesus' ministry was much more about healing than we realize. The apostles' ministry, there was a lot of healing going on. Why it doesn't happen for everybody, I'm still answering that question.
You'd think that you'd see a lot more of that now that the world is bigger and it's more spread. Mm-hmm. But I also feel that the church became so separate. It's like now you've got all these different sub-religions, and we aren't unified. I mean, there's infighting, and maybe that's part of it. The other thing I've always considered, since I teach science and biology and stuff like that, and Christians are often called science deniers. It's like, no, I feel like, and maybe this is weird, but I feel like God put those parameters in place, those laws, those rules that can't be broken like gravity, so that we would be able to function in our bodies, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to understand. The more understanding we get of the world, to me, and its limitations, the more I understand, its divine purpose. And while all things are possible, every game has to be played within a certain parameters, within certain rules. And I mean, there are some places we kind of bend the rules a little bit, and then we try and everything goes crazy and the board flips. But it seems to me that if there weren't very definitive boundaries, we wouldn't be able to learn anything in our flesh. That's how I grapple with it.
Right.
But how do you? And so you said it was your mother-in-law that was the double amputee?
Yes.
And how do you grapple with somebody who has every right to be angry at God,
bitter,
or hate, or even just stop believing altogether?
Right.
Well, years ago, and especially at that time, that was late 90s, early 2000s. And I was a lot more cocky and assured of what was true and what wasn't true. And I was a lot more sure of what I knew and wasn't humble enough to recognize what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that experience, and my dad died of multiple myeloma. Debbie's dad, he passed away too of several complications from long-term illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Those journeys helped me to discover the things that we're talking about here. Be comfortable recognizing and reconciling what you don't know for sure. Go to the Word, go to the Bible, go to God in prayer. Learn the things. Learn as much as you can with certainty. Be humble about the things you don't know. I would never say rest in ignorance. Always seek the answers, but right. Seek the answers. God has the answers, and He'll give you what He feels you can handle and what you need to know.
I think that's one of the beauties of our specific belief system that other religions don't have, is we are not just allowed to be skeptical, we're encouraged. And I think people miss out on that. They think that you just blindly follow whatever. And there are sects of our faith that do that, and I think they're wrong.
I agree with
and that's why I struggle with Catholicism in particular, because I feel like having somebody between you and God is just not biblical. So I don't want to.
And the Bible also says that we are all different parts of the same body. We all bring a different function to the whole. So we're not all the same. And the mistake that we make in Christianity, in our denominationalism, is camping behind those things that we disagree with, or camping behind that one area of theology that we're all about.
Yeah.
And we don't see the value that other parts of the body are bringing to the table. And I started off a Catholic. I was brought to Christ through a Pentecostal ecumenical prayer group. After that, I became a hardcore cessationist who didn't believe that miracles were for today, and didn't believe in speaking in tongues and the fact that God interacts through us supernaturally to help other people, and miraculously. Then the Lord took me back on a journey to correct me, and that's when He gave me those supernatural healings that I told you about, to say, here's the truth. And He even said, here is your courage, now speak up.
I want to hear more about these healings, Dan.
Yeah, sure.
This is new information. I want to hear that story. I know we're going to go a little over time, but you know what? That's the beauty of having our own podcast. We can make it as long as we want. So tell me about this. I want to hear. Have you shared this story before?
With my friends and family.
Are you willing to share it with the?
Absolutely.
All right, let's hear this story. I want to hear it.
This was huge for me. When I was in Bible college back in the late 90s, like I said, I was a hardcore cessationist, believing that, the supernatural gifts, the signs and wonders that we read about in the New Testament. Cessationist belief in simple terms means that those no longer function today.
So those stopped cessation.
Right.
Okay.
Those stopped once the canon of Scripture was recognized and put together and circulated. Then God sort of put Himself in a box, and He left us the Bible, and He left us prayer and obedience, and we fulfill the Great Commission with those tools, and that's that.
So they removed the Holy Spirit.
They didn't remove the Holy Spirit necessarily existentially, but they removed him in a lot of ways functionally. You know, they believe the Holy Spirit is in us. We are a temple of the Holy Spirit when we're born again, but in general, they do not believe that miracles, signs, wonders, healings. They don't believe that is an innate part of the gospel message today. They don't believe that it still happens.
I have
And
to admit,
everything
I
that
understand that. I'm kind of in that camp, and yet I have hope that I'm
yeah.
wrong.
Right. I understand. I feel you there. So that cessationist belief, I learned to embrace it because the Christian community that I became a part of after I came home from overseas, that was what they believed. And I didn't, I wasn't terribly sophisticated back then. I just went where my friends went and I absorbed. I mean, the church, they did so many things right, and I accredit so much of who I am today and the good things I try to accomplish. I accredit, every church experience I've had over the last over 30 years has had positives in it, but nobody's perfect. The Pentecostals, they're not perfect either. They get so many things right, but there's, so many things wrong. So, but at that time, that's what I was, and I, at the same time, started growing a little bit uncomfortable in my heart. And this is how the Holy Spirit works. He puts those little bits of discomfort in you that make you seek answers. With how the church I was pastoring at the time was just doing things in general. And,
so you were actually a pastor of this church.
I was a student and a pastor. I pastored a very small church in the Chicago suburbs to fulfill my internship requirement. But, I was swinging for the fences for that church. It was an old church. It was a declining church. Everybody there was my parents' and grandparents' age. I was the youngest kid there. And the church only had a handful of people, and I was swinging for the fences. And so I thought to myself, okay, if we're really going to gonna rebound, recover, make this work, I'm going to go back to our church's written constitution so I can understand everything we believe, so that as a pastor I can represent my church more as knowledgeably as possible. I wasn't looking, this is not a Martin Luther story. I mean, I wasn't looking to change anything.
No nailing edicts to the, okay.
Not first. Well, truth be told, Martin Luther wasn't looking to start a fight either. He was looking to just get it right.
Yeah.
That's how I was doing it.
That usually is how a fight gets picked, though, is if you want the truth to come out, especially nowadays.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
I was home in my basement apartment in Chicago in my free time, just reading through the Constitution. And a lot of constitutions, they follow the same pattern, and the way they lay out their doctrines. So when I came inevitably to the doctrine of the Holy Spirit, the bullet points in the Constitution said, we believe that God gives, that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, that God gives each person a gift of the Spirit to their own unique spiritual ability to demonstrate Christ to the church and to the world. And then it said in the Constitution that we believe that the gifts, the supernatural gifts of the New Testament, functioned in the time of Jesus and the apostles, but eventually died. Their use became obsolete, and so I thought, okay, and I looked at the scriptures they cited, and I'm like, okay, cool, fair enough. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, well, the Bible says I'm a temple of the Holy Spirit. The Bible says I'm given gifts. The Apostle Paul says, to each is given their own manifestation of the Spirit. But I could not find anything that definitively said these gifts are dead. These gifts will die. Now, some people could say that we'll cite Paul when he said, when the perfect comes, that is Jesus, then the imperfect will pass away. And that's a paraphrase. But I thought, okay, that's in terms of Jesus' return. That is not now. And so I'm grappling with this, and I'm just thinking through this like a dumb college kid. And it just, just my basic sensibilities with reading the scripture and praying and putting together some of the things that I had witnessed in the past. I'm like, I can't embrace this. So I wanted to have a talk with my elder team, and I just said, hey, let's just have a conversation.
That must have been tough, though, because you're like, I
Oh,
don't
it was
really
scary.
believe what I'm preaching.
What was also tough was my wife and I, we were dating at the time. We were not married yet. And we both came from the same church background. I thought, what's she going to think of this?
Oh, boy.
And so I had to reconcile it with her before, and make sure our relationship was staying on the right track, and then reconciling it before reconciling it with my elders. And Debbie said to me, I don't understand where you're going. I mean, I don't understand this doctrine fully. And to be honest, I'm a little intimidated by it. But she said, between you and me, this is not a deal breaker.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And so before I had my meeting at the church, we went to a couple of local Christian conferences on the sly, and some Pentecostal
you rebels sneaking off the Christian.
charismatic, spirit-filled Christian conferences. We saw
okay.
Jim Cymbala, the pastor of the Brooklyn Tabernacle. I started reading books. I started having more honest conversations with my Pentecostal spirit-filled friends. And I just noticed that there was a peace and a wholeness about them that I said, you know what? So much of my faith is up in my head. Your faith just feels complete. You're like, heart, mind, body, soul, actions, everything about you is just whole and at peace. I'm this uptight dude walking around trying to keep all this book knowledge in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You have something I want.
I think there's a lot of Christians out there that it's in their head and nowhere else.
Yeah. Right. And so I got to the point where I thought I need to have a conversation. I didn't want to. It scared me. I wasn't trying. I wasn't giving it as a condition or, see it my way or I'm gone. I wasn't doing that. I was like, hey guys, let's have a conversation. So as I was praying about that and hesitating and stalling, I was down in the church basement one Saturday afternoon, and I was running bulletins for the next morning. And an old Marine Corps injury started to resurface. I contract cellulitis very easily. And it's a blood infection, and it's the first stage of gangrene.
Oh.
You've seen it. There might be other words for it, but the affected area starts swelling, gets red hot, gets feverish, and then it spreads to your entire limb if you don't catch it. And that happened to me a couple of times in the military. So now I'm recognizing this, and it's in my hand, and I don't know why. Half of my hand looks like a grapefruit. And so I'm really getting worried now because it doesn't go away by itself. So I'm running bulletins with half a hand and getting nervous about this. And I just stopped. I held my hand and I said, Heavenly Father, I know what this is. I've had it before. I know it's not going away. This was my prayer, this simple. I don't have any health insurance. I can't afford to go to the doctor. Lord, please heal my hand. And right when I said amen, the swelling in my hand collapsed.
Whoa.
I didn't feel any rush of energy over my body. I didn't feel anything. The swelling in my hand collapsed. And I'm looking at it, and it's starting, the skin that was starting to sag. And that's usually the first stages of healing. The skin gets soft and it starts sagging. And I'm holding my hand in shock of what just happened. And very clear thought in my head said, go run cold water. It wasn't audible. It was just a thought, go run cold water. So I ran my hand under the sink for a few minutes, and the skin started tightening up, and the redness went down. And then within the next couple of days, all evidence of the infection was gone.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And I prayed about it. I said, Lord, is anybody going to believe me? Nobody else saw it. And he said, I saw it and you saw it. This is your courage. Now have that conversation. And so I had the conversation and with my elders. And long story short, it lasted about 5 minutes before it imploded. It turned into a shouting match. One of the men got up and stormed out. I behaved in a way that in defense of myself, that I'm very ashamed of. Over the next couple of days, I tried to reconcile it. We all found peace with each other, but we just couldn't find common ground. And Debbie and I just realized that, these are good people. We love them. They're born again believers, but I can't function. I can't lead in this kind of a climate.
Did you tell that story to Debbie, and what was her reaction to it?
I did. Debbie was she was shocked. She looked at the timing. She looked at what happened. I mean, she saw my hand, before that happened. She knew what was going on, and so but I told her the whole story. And Debbie's not a real she's not a big talker. She's not real charismatic or loud. She's very quiet, contemplative, and she's a real thinker. Mm-hmm. And I can always tell by the look in her eyes and by the way she nods in agreement that this is resonating. She believes this.
So she was on board with the the move that was about to happen.
And we prayed together. I went in, and after the meeting was over, this was before everybody had a cell phone. I called her up and I said, "Hun, it went as bad as it could have gone." And so.
What was your goal for that meeting? Was it to have the church have a change of heart? I mean, what did you want to come out of that meeting?
I wanted us to embrace what the scriptures really taught. Mm-hmm. And even though, I couldn't articulate all of it perfectly at the time, but I had a basic fundamental belief that what just happened to me was real and God still works this way. And
they just couldn't accept it.
And they couldn't accept it. And when we tried to reconcile afterward and have more conversations, everybody was just digging for every little scripture they could bend into a pretzel to tell me I was wrong. And so my goal going into the whole thing was saying, let's have a conversation, let's see what the Bible really says, and let's adjust course. And let's see how God blesses us after we do this. I can show you how he just blessed me. And it wasn't just all about healing. It was knowing how to hear his voice in your heart and in your conscience and respond to it at any given moment the way he wants you to, with your knowledge of the word and, just training yourself with wisdom and experience. That's was my long game. So, I knew I was going to be met with disagreement. I just didn't think it was. I came into the conversation with more good faith. Mm-hmm. But it went south so fast that I just realized, as a matter of fact, I kept thinking, okay, well, let's sleep on this, try it again, sleep on this, try it again. But I had some older, wiser Christians in my life who have been down that road, and they said, no, Dan. No, this is not going to go where you think it's going to go. You're going to spend too much time kicking a brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your next move then, find a new church. I mean, what did you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, Debbie and I started seeking and going to different churches that were in line with us theologically. I did a lot of exploring. We visited some churches that we felt were open to those beliefs, if not fully practicing them. And we got married. Then we settled into a local church in Downers Grove, Illinois, Chicago suburb. And this was an Assemblies of God church. And, with the research that I did, I just felt the most theologically akin with the Assemblies of God, mm-hmm. As far as their beliefs, their practices, and just how they do life, the whole picture. And I just felt, what, I'm comfortable here. So that's where we went. And then I started pursuing ministry credentials with that fellowship at churches.
You said there was more than one healing.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the next one?
Yeah, well, that healing was what I needed at that point in time. They came late at other times throughout the years, when God didn't have to convince me anymore that was real. Sometimes he just wanted to bless me. And these were brief little moments in time where I was like, oh man, I really need to get over this. I want to be beyond this issue. And one time in particular, see, I had a herniated disc, and I say had in past tense. And just anybody who's had those, I only had one. I feel for anybody who had more than one, but it was right between my shoulder blades, and it was debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you manage the pain, but it never really goes away. One afternoon, I was pumping gas outside of a grocery store, and Kevin was with me, and he was in middle school at the time. And I'm sitting there pumping gas in this pain. I'm just like, I am so done with this. And so I said, I wanted Kevin to see God's.
This is within the last 5 years or so, because Kevin just graduated high school.
This was probably around 2017.
Yeah, so not too far in the past.
So we're pumping gas, and I'm standing there, and this pain has just been there for years, and I just want it gone. God cares about the little things, people. He doesn't. He's not just about the big miracles. He cares about the little ones too. And so I said, Kevin, lay your hands on my back and ask Jesus to heal me. And so he stepped over the gas hose, and he just in the sweetest, most simple prayer. Kevin always prays. He always starts his prayers with, Jesus, I love you so much, and I ask that you would please heal my dad's back. Amen.
Pretty straightforward.
And faith of a child.
And the pain went away. And the pain went away. The swelling went away. And that was 2017. My back has not been an issue since then. So.
All right, so I'm going to fly down and have Kevin pray over me. I've got a few things I need to take care of.
Yeah. Well, we can pray about that anytime you want to.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
All right, so are you planning on having your own church? I mean, what's your next move?
Well, I'm a teacher and a speaker and a mentor at heart. I love sitting in front of my computer and putting words on paper. I definitely have a pastoral mentality, but I'm a little bit more of what I like to call a companion discipler. Mm. I like pastoring people from the pews, and pastoring people over coffee, and pastoring friends along the way. And I've done pastoral ministry in the traditional sense over the years, but for some reason the Holy Spirit has kept me most of the time on the other side of the pews, on the other side of the pulpit. So I want to mentor people in how to approach the Bible and how to walk their faith. So in whatever platform that lends itself to, that's where I'm going. So awesome. I'm not sure if local church pastor is really where I'm headed, but
well, it goes back to what you said earlier about each of us being a part of the body. Mm-hmm. You're not required to be a particular thing. You may have your own idea, but God has his ideas. You might want to go with that one instead. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So I don't picture myself doing that either. Just more sharing with people rather than
and that's what we're called to do is to be a friend and minister. Mm-hmm. Wow, Dan, I could keep talking to you for another 2-3 hours, so we're definitely going to have to do this again soon.
Yes, let's please do it again.
Yes, absolutely. Your story really touched my heart, and I have a lot to think about. So thank you so much for being willing to come on and open yourself up to this. It's been a genuine
It's been a genuine pleasure.
And folks, I highly recommend his book, Through Fields of Fire, My Dark Horse Journey. Mr. Dan Biegler, all of your information will be on our website, counterculturalism.com. Follow those links. Check in on Facebook. Send him an email. It would be a lot of fun if people would start sharing their healing stories and see if we can't get them. I know the Chicken Soup series did quite a few of those things, but I think we've become so cynical, and we hear these stories, but we don't hear these stories. And it would be nice to start, a new Jesus revolution like they had in the 60s and start swinging that pendulum, ever so slightly back to faith and God and love and family and all those things that we don't need to fill in, with other things like drugs and all the crazy stuff. So, Dan, you're just such a sweet, honest, faithful person. I can see where Kevin gets it. So good job. Good job.
Well, and can I just mention one more thing?
Absolutely.
Based on our conversation, and I appreciate all of your good words, especially about Kevin. When it comes to the faith and healing, and why didn't God do this or why won't God do that? One thing that I believe, and I've learned this from experience, is very, very helpful in both finding peace and finding God, is not always asking God why,
Mm-hmm.
or why didn't you do it my way, or why. A better way to approach that is to say, Lord, show me where you are, and what do you want me to learn through this? And show me what this is all about. That doesn't mean we have to settle for, not receiving, but we have to see receiving as a journey. And sometimes there's more to it than just the thing that we want. So,
true.
Yeah.
That's one thing I learned the hard way is God doesn't always give you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are on the other side looking back, it's like, oh, wait, he gave me something better.
Yes.
I just didn't know I wanted it at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
so
I
one
think
last time.
That's a good place to end it, I'll be honest.
So one last time, we always do this at the end of the show too. You repeat where you can be reached online.
Yeah. At outskirtspress.com through /through Fields and Fire. On Facebook at Through Fields and Fire, My Dark Horse Journey by Dan Biegler. My book is also available at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and all of your typical online booksellers. And I'll say again, DDBIEGLER at att.net if you want to email me.
All right. We will post, like I said, all of those up on our website. And have a marvelous Father's Day.
Thank you. Same to you.
They celebrate you, and we will definitely talk to you again soon.
Great.
This has been
Thank you for
awesome.
the time and for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a genuine pleasure.
You bet.
Counterculture-Wise is a Stormcat production.
Thank you for joining our growing family of listeners. All links from the show are available on our website, counterculturewise.com. Find our archives on any of your favorite podcast hosts.
We engage in satire, commentary, and generally laugh at the ridiculousness of our crumbling society. Our only medical or financial advice is to not follow any financial or medical advice given by podcasters.
Our animations, interviews, Holy Crap segment, and other videos are put out on BitChute and Rumble, and only in part on YouTube because they hate free speech.
Our show is entirely funded by listeners like you. Visit our ever-expanding merch store or our Subscribe Star, where you can get outtakes, extra videos, and sneak peeks.
If you would like to be a guest on our program, feel free to contact us via our website. Just click on the link at the top that says, "Be a guest on our show."
For more fun and cat pics, please visit our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. For complaints about our show, please fill out the ID10T form on our website, and we will give it the attention it deserves.
Meanwhile, no matter how cruel the world may be around you, always remember the importance of kindness. Be kind to each other, be kind to animals, and be kind to yourself. See you next week.